This is VK3SL, testing on 160 metres, 2 metres and streaming online. And this is a regular Friday night program. Do this every week. Been doing it for nearly 2 years now. And I'm very pleased to have a first. We have a guest in the studio today. This is wonderful news. Mr NewBek, welcome.
Yes, it's good to be here in the 3SL studios, watching the entire setup in action. It's quite a sight to behold.
Yeah, well, it's all right. It's the blue tack and sticky tape booth. Everything is sort of juxtaposed, and some things through osmosis sort of work. But yes, we had to climb over all of the junk to get in here, and yes, we're set up. And look, it's going to be fun tonight because we've actually got very little planned at all, and that's always the better way to have it. But I have given Mr NewBek a screen, and he's going to share with us some of his compositions, which I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be good to have some new material. But look, I am a stickler for tradition, and I have to say, 20s mania grips me. It's gripped me from the very earliest years of my life. I've always loved 1920s dance band music, and see, this is me trying to relive my youth. So what do we have? Yes, we have a record which is it's one of those Lightbeam records. That's right, it's one of these Brunswick Lightbeam discs from 1926, straight off the shelf. It's Harry Archer and his orchestra with Sunny. So, here we go. The euphoric distortion of the Brunswick Lightbeam recordings from 1926, Harry Archer and his band. So yes, we were just talking about the Lightbeam. I think it was an antidote to Western Electric's patent, and it's inherently full of intermod distortion, and it makes a small group sound enormous. So we get this wonderful sort of Phil Spector factor, hitting the wall with sound. In fact, I think there's another one here. This is another Brunswick. This is care of Mr Prozut. In fact, it's his latest offering. But It's. I think they'd moved on from the moved on beyond that process by 1929. So we'll see. We'll have a little listen now to what is it? What is it? She Chills Me. Now, what's the name of the band? I can't even see. It doesn't tell me here. Who? Oh, it is Chick Scroggins Orchestra. Now, he's starting to really... he's trying to find... I think he's got an extensive collection. He's put the best of it up. Now we're finding sort of unusual bands who made one or two records or who had a low yield. And so we're sort of seeing all sorts of weird and wonderful things turn up on Mr Prozoot's site. So, yes, this is the latest. Just put up a day ago. And, yes, She Chills Me with Chick Scroggins Orchestra. A late Scroggin.
She chills me, and how she makes me rave. I'm her devoted slave. She has just what I crave. She chills me. There's keen style about her smile, a sparkle in her eyes. Her sweet kiss I can't resist. She's got me hypnotized. She's got me going now. She's perfect, boy and how. I'll make her mine, I vow. She chills me.
Okay, yes, what was that? That was, that's what happens with Mr Prozoot. He keeps going. He aggregates. He puts them all in one big long file, and we probably hear the entire output of Chick Scroggins' band. But we'll just stick with one for the moment. That was She Chills Me. Now, we're just debating. I think that actually might be a light beam recording. It's got that sort of inherent distortion characteristic, that sort of into mod hit the wall sound. So interesting. 1929. I thought they'd moved on from that process by then, but that's interessant. Now, Mr NewBek,
yes.
you've brought in you brought in a box of 78s, which is really good, because I think people are starting to get tired of the of this collection being revamped over and over. So we need new material, need fresh material, and it looks like there's a few interesting things there. So let's get the shovel out and what do we have in the pile?
Yes, let's find out what the Knox-Op shop has given us.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay. Oh, here we go. Big pile of records here. Let's blow the dust off. Now, the first one, I have to put the spectacles on, and I'll have a look. It is Rudy Valley and his Connecticut Yankees. This sounds good. And Henry King and his orchestra. Well, I'll have to give this a sample. Oh, it's in nice condition too. Lovely condition. So EA 1368, I reckon about 1932.
Ah, yes.
Okay. So this is Sleepyhead from Operator 13, from the film Operator 13. I don't know anything about that film. You could probably look it up. It has got a vocal refrain by Mr. Valley himself. And I'll just see. All right, well, look, we'll plonk it onto the platter, shall we, and see what's... this is genuinely sampling on the fly here. We didn't have a pre-listen to this at all. We've got to keep these missions authentic and cutting to the chase. So, shall we have a listen to Sleepyhead?
I think we should.
So what's the story about this one?
So, this either came out of one of two collections, one that I bought at the recently opened Salvation Army store at the Knox City Shopping Centre last weekend.
Knox City, okay.
A friend of mine owns a second-hand shop, and he had this big box of 78s under the desk. And he's like, oh, well, these things never sell. Do you want them? So he gave them to me.
Very good. Well, you're doing the right thing. This is a very important missions tradition, is collecting 78s and
yes,
and watching turntables spin. There's a certain pathology there with that, and something that captivates me. So look, we'll have a listen to Rudy Valley, and we'll keep this tradition alive.
Van Winkle was a man who taught folks how to sleep. 20 good long years wrapped in slumber deep. You ain't Rip Van Winkle, but you do your best. Boy, you sure do love your rest. Come on, get out of bed. Ain't you heard the rooster crow? Must have been a week ago. Good for nothing, sleepyhead. Sleepyhead. See the sun so bright and red. He's been up and riding high, but you just let the time go by. Good for nothing, sleepyhead. Everything you do tomorrow, but you've got a lot to do today. Mind me now, you're bound to come to sorrow. You just gonna let your sleepy head away. Sleepy head, I'd take away that bed, but you're such a lazy puppy, you'd be sleeping standing up. Good for nothing, sleepyhead. Take away that bed, but you're such a lazy pup that you'd be sleeping standing up. Good for nothing, sleepyhead.
Okay, yes, we just heard one of Mr NewBek's records. We heard Sleepyhead with Rudy Valley and his Connecticut Yankees, 1934, we found out. Couldn't work out the film. It said Operation 13. Now I couldn't see it.
Find it.
No, it didn't seem to be any information on the film. But what we might do is we might flip the side, because I think there's another band on the other side. I think it's Harry King or something. Henry King and his orchestra with Joseph Sooty, The Breeze. Now, let me have another look and see what it said. Operation 13 from the film. Oh, Operator. Operator 13. That's where I got it wrong. Okay, well, may have a bit of an investigation there. Right, let's have a listen to the other side. It's The Breeze and Henry King and his orchestra. Now, Joseph Sooty is the vocalist, so we know the year. And it's nice, clean Australian laminated pressing of an American record. And we'll just fade in and have a listen. Thank you for bringing this.
No worries.
Day I'm waiting patiently, and when the salty wind is blowing from the sea, I pretend that it's the breeze that's filling the sail, that's moving the ship, that's bringing my honey back to me. I always keep my window open wide. I like to let the friendly breeze come right inside, and pretend that it's the breeze that's filling the sail, that's moving the ship, that's bringing my honey back to me. Mr. Wind, keep blowing stronger, 'cause I must have that gal of mine. Every day seems so much longer. Don't forget it's daylight saving time. I get so lonesome waiting days and weeks, but every breath of air that lingers on my cheeks seems to whisper it's the breeze that's filling the sail, that's moving the ship, that's bringing my honey back to me.
Right, that was Henry King and his orchestra from 1934. Yeah, sort of a bit of mid-30s soupy music. Yeah, it's quite a. We did a little bit of research just before on Operator 13, and it's a film about the American Civil War, apparently. So yes, but there was a Three Stooges parody of it, which I think could be more interesting. Anyhow, but that's good. Thank you. We'll have a look. We've got other records here too. We've got a few things that we can mine. Have a look, mine in the collection here. And there's one here that looks quite. Yeah, it's a ABC Effects Department record.
Yes.
Now, this is the sort of material. This is great missions fodder. Major mood music. I love it. Major. I don't know. Is it Speed 78 or not?
I don't know. I thought that it might be
it could be. It looks like it. Yeah. I wonder. It's hard to know. No, it could be. Well, we can only try. It's not going to harm the record. It's a vinyl, and 10-inch vinyl. It's major record. And, yeah. So, I like mood music. Well, this sort of might be a bit of a segue into another another episode. So, well, we've got, what would you like? We've got Violent Action Bridge.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, we've got Bottoms Up and Mystery Bridge Action, Life in the City, that's opening, and Boy Meets Girl Background.
Good question. I think the violent one. I mean, that's what sells
I reckon
the
we could. Yeah, we need something a bit violent, don't we?
Yes.
Yes, that's right. It'll be a bit of an icebreaker. So, Violent Action Bridge, it says. So, what do you think?
Yeah, I reckon.
Is there any more mood music?
Well, I'm just really hoping that I find something like I imagine something like the Division 4 theme music or Homicide theme might appear on that.
Yeah, that would be good. Here we go. Wow, that was pretty short-lived. That's our 21 seconds worth of violent films. Oh, here, that's the next one. What was this one? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Bottoms Up.
Yeah. This is when they're all down at the pub.
I think so.
And put the bad guys in the lockup.
That's right. Yeah. It's pretty upbeat.
Clinking glasses and all that.
I can imagine. Yeah. 78s on vinyl sound very good, don't they?
They do. It sounds incredibly hi-fi.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's excellent. Bottoms Up. That was from the ABC effects department, from probably recorded in the 60s, 50s, maybe late 50s. It's pretty good. We'll turn that side over. Now, what was on the other side? Mystery Bridge. Oh, these are the bridge records.
Mystery Bridge.
Yeah, Mystery Bridge number 2. Mystery Bridge number 2, Action. Then we have Life in the City, and Boy Meets Girl in the background.
Life in the City sounds very cosmopolitan.
It does. It does indeed. They're all quite short.
Yes.
Okay.
That's the best thing about 78s. I think they're all quite short.
Yes. Yeah, I think you've got something there. Okay, well, look, let's have a listen to Mystery Bridge. What would be a mystery bridge? You could have a mystery drain, or you could have a mystery building, or mystery something, but Mystery Bridge, okay. Well, we'll find out, I suppose. This will, you can use your imaginations, your collective imaginations, to conjure up something that fits this vinyl image. Here we go. Exhausting. Well, there we go. There was the Mystery Beach. Now we have Life in the City, I think. Yes, that's the next one. Huh? Okay, that was Life in the City. Next one's Boy Meets Girl.
Boy
I think.
Meets Girl.
Well, this could be interesting.
Opening theme.
Yes. Well, we've certainly satisfied the effects department offerings there. Hearings, I could look at it. They're very evocative, aren't they?
Wasn't that lovely?
It was. It was very sort of. Yeah, I can just imagine one of those 1950s films with saturated Kodachrome, seeing the very innocent scenes that
Completely inoffensive.
yeah, definitely. Yes, but they're great. Wouldn't it be? I just think it would be so much fun to play in one of those orchestras recording these things. Just sort of, you could really ham it up. You can hear that they're sort of having a bit of a hoot, hamming it up. I was just saying off here while we were listening to that, there's one on the pile here called Pink Fizz. Now I think I've played this before, but we could have I'll listen to another 10-inch vinyl from this one's from the KP Music recorded library of ambient music, and we'll have a listen to Pink Fizz. on a bit of a mood music roller coaster at the moment. That was Pink Fizz. Yes, and now I've also got, well, if we're doing this, we can't neglect Busy Bachelor. Busy Bachelor sort of defines the era, really. And there was some iconic material on YouTube with Busy Bachelor, but unfortunately the soundtrack was removed. But
oh, no.
Never the mind. Let's have a listen.
What a classic.
It certainly is. Oh, gosh, sorry about that. Some dead air there. We were just chatting away. Yes, so I don't know. Well, we just heard Busy Bachelor, yes. Now, we're just sort of contemplating this unusual 10-inch LP, which is...
Yes, I'm not quite sure where I got this from. I think this came separate from the rest of the batch. It's a little bit water damaged, but it's... I'm not sure when it came from. Long play. It says, Speed the Parting Guest, Hi-Fi Bull in a Chime Shop. That's Chime Shop, not China Shop.
Right. Any details about... It's a Cook record. Now, Cook records, it rings a bell, but I can't quite make sense of what the story is, what the lineage is. Someone will know and someone will inform me. But, yeah, but it sort of sounds like... I don't know. It's we just had a quick listen while Busy Bachelor was romping away there. We had a quick sample on the buyer. Now, we'll put this on. What's the first track on side?
Well, it says here, Speed the Parting Guest is the first track.
Right.
And I need to read out this little footnote here. In binaural, this record can be dangerous. It puts the listener right in the middle of the crossfire where we were, and we cannot be responsible for flying mallets or assaults from unexpected quarters. How odd.
Oh, it sounds like it's a little bit of a humour record. Oh, it's a Cook disc. They're, I think they're a binaural recordings.
Oh, okay. Produced by Cook Laboratories Incorporated, R2 Stamford, Connecticut.
Yeah, I think these records had you play 2 tracks at once.
Oh.
Cook records. I think they required a special stylus. Cook.
Now, you would think that there would be auxiliary instructions.
Yes, I know what I've read about this. Cook Records, here we go. It was a label founded by Emery Cook, the audio engineer and inventor. We'll just get a bit more information. From 1952 to 58. Now, Cook used his Sounds of Our Times and Cook Laboratories record labels to demonstrate the philosophy about sound recording equipment and manufacturing techniques. Recording techniques, in addition to Sound of Our Times, Cook released Road Recordings, a white label, that goes on. Cook Records, genres, binaural recordings. About 50 binaural recordings were made. I don't know if this one is binaural or not. I'm aware that the Cook had a particular pickup which would play 2 tracks at once. And you put the pickup had an equal distance, sort of 2 heads within the one arm assembly. So you'd basically play, it was sort of a form of early stereo. That's the interesting thing. Now, it says... A record, it says, unusual recordings, strange projects and strange sound recordings, also part of the Cook legacy. Night Rain and Katy recordings were released alongside Caribbean steel band and blues recordings. A record like Speed the Parting Guest, that's the one on this, isn't it? Yeah, that's what we're going to have a listen to this in a minute. Could even today fulfill its duty by speeding a parting guest in our modern day world. Right. Records like Burlesque Uncovered, in which the recorded striptease show in sound, are still amusing. Right. Okay. Well, this has certainly captured my imagination now. And a record like Rail Dynamics, recorded on rainy nights along the tracks of the New York Central Railroad, still delivers that rainy night feeling it must have had when it was recorded. And Cook's 1956 binaural record of decades-old steam-driven Calliope carousels is amusing not only for their tunes but for hearing the audible struggles the machines had to go through just to produce a sound and play anything even approximately in tune. Right. Okay. Now it says, although an audio artist and engineer, Cook covered himself by having musicians he recorded along the road sign. Oh, I have to put my specs on. I can't read this. Oh, this is better. Yeah, it says, though an audio artist and engineer, Cook covered himself by having musicians he recorded along the road sign pieces of paper, giving him permission to market their performances, showcasing that he was also a businessman. In most cases, those papers stated that they sold all the rights to the recordings he made from them for the payment of $1. Didn't pay his musicians very much. Naturally, not all the recordings were made for such cheap prices, but goes on and on and on and on and on. Well, this sounds like it's quite an interesting artifact. So we'll have a listen to that first track. We can't do the binaural thing justice if it is indeed a binaural record, but we'll certainly see how we go. We'll listen to one track of it at least, and we can investigate this further and see if there be... See, what you could do is you could play both tracks and then just reassemble them using software, and you could get the full binaural effect. Now, that would be a really interesting thing to try out. So there'd be a way of... If this is indeed a binaural record, it would be a way around things.
Yeah, so there'd be even another interesting exercise to try and broadcast it in binaural on, say, 160.
Well, it would. It would be the way to do it. But I think you'd have to software compile it. That's the only thing, because I don't have one of those jigs to do it, a double tone arm, which I've seen. There's a number of examples on YouTube. That's where it's all coming back to me now. There's there are a number of their binaural records played by these special record players. But, people have fabricated them, but I think the way to do it would be with software. But yes, by all means, I think it would be great to try that. And hopefully I'll have hi-fi on FM and AM soon because, when I get around, when I have some life to myself, and I can get out and visit Mr L. He's got an FM TX, which will probably give us a little bit more headroom there, or a little bit more fineness. All right, let's have a listen to, what was that first track called again, Andrew?
Speed the Parting Guest, Hi-Fi Bull in a Chime Shop.
Right, okay, we'll use the Autophon cartridge and have a listen. A bit of RF getting in, but we'll see how we go.
Okay. We just heard not Speed the Parting Guest, but the B-side, which was Hong Kong local, as you might have guessed by the oriental feel of that.
Yeah, definitely. This is intriguing. This is a binaural record.
Yes.
So we'll have to look at ways of reconstructing it, because it could be quite spacious and interesting effect. Very early experiment in the stereo vein.
Be an interesting technical exercise to get it played back.
Probably wouldn't be very difficult at all. You just need to shift the waveform and just assemble it and just line them up. So what was the first track again? We'll go back and have a listen to this. That was the one they mentioned in that article, wasn't it?
Yes. So it's on the other side of this disc, and that was Speed the Parting Guest,
right?
And in parenthesis, Hi-Fi Bull in a Chime Shop.
Well, should we try and give these a go? I'm getting a bit of hum, unfortunately, but we'll hopefully solve the problem.
So this is the title track.
Yeah, Yeah, this is the one we anticipated playing before. So I think we're right.
A little bit of noise on
There
it.
we go.
Yeah.
Well, that is quite... Oh, here we go. That wasn't me. Oh. Sounds of our times. Or the times.
Indeed.
Well, I might fade it there. That's the music of Jimmy Carroll. So, just reading about him, he is obviously, he's sort of directing the group of percussionists and chime players. And there's a picture of this quite a sophisticated array of percussion instruments. Now, would probably sound really amazing in binaural sound. It would just be all there. And it says here, that this record can be dangerous in binaural. Puts the listener right in the middle of the crossfire. The early stereo had such an allure. I mean, it would have been an incredibly... I don't know, it'd be a magical experience. People must have felt transported being able to get all those spatial sort of effects. And obviously Mr. Emery Cook from the Cook Laboratories, Electronic Industry Imports. So they're the people who released it here. So it's Cook Laboratories in Connecticut. He obviously was trying to sort of capture, sounds that can be really spatially configured and sound impressive. So sound effects and chime wind orchestras and
some of those rain recordings would be quite nice. Just imagine listening to 1950s rain.
Yes,
very soothing.
Right. That's it. Yes. I remember at the turn of the millennium, I was on top of a mountain with my DAT machine, and I wanted to capture the sounds of the moment the millennium changed. And that was a binaural recorder. I think I had a dummy head in the pack or something. Right. And I just sat there and just got the nature sounds for a couple of hours right at the nexus. So, that was all a bit of a futile experience. But I'm fascinated by this. This is really a new thing because I recall now I did spend an evening listening on YouTube to Cook binaural records. There's quite a few of them put up, and you see they're very agricultural looking playback machines, and you get some idea of what they're trying to achieve. But of course, it was all Mr. Blumline's stereo. Who I can't remember who exactly was responsible for the stereo cartridge. It was a product of Bell Labs, I think. Anyhow, that obviously revolutionised things with the single styly. But before that, there were a number of interesting experiments, and this is no exception. So that's most impressive, Andrew. It could be a good segue into. You've got some of your own material here, don't you?
Yes, I do.
So we'll fade this out gradually, because I think we're going to. I think we're more or less at the end of that track, and what'll happen is it'll play the whole thing again in the other speaker.
No, right. Such was the nature of the technology.
Yeah. Have you ever used in-ear mics before?
No, I've been. It's something that I've been reading about recently. I started to become fascinated with the life and experiments of Michael Gerson and all of his ambisonic stuff. Yes, of course. I've been doing a great deal of reading of that, and I went on a bit of a binaural trip not long ago as well. So,
okay. Oh, very good. There's some great stuff online, isn't there? Some archives of binaural recordings. I had this sort of thing about binaural in the 90s and early 2000s. I got some in-ear microphones, the ones I used on the mountain for the New Year, but I also used them to record lots of sort of ambient sounds of life and things. And it is, even with a very modest, Panasonic insert microphones, the Electret FET mics, even with those you do get all the spatial cues, and it's a very compelling experience listening on headphones. It's amazing. It's great. So maybe we can assume that people might be listening, might choose to listen to these missions on, I think actually Frank does, on FM and AM he can in the one with a single set of headphones. So maybe there's some prospect for doing some binaural tests, because that's the nature of this. We're not aiming to entertain at all. It's no entertainment.
No, certainly not.
That would be outrageous. In fact, we wouldn't. That would offend the sensibilities of these all of the people associated with this network. This is all about testing, of course.
It's purely technical.
It is, indeed. In fact, we've just, as said, we've been listening to the Cook Laboratories, Electronic Industries Imports, who circulated this disc. Yeah, but anyhow, let's hear what you have got on your. Yeah, you've got a webpage. You should promote it.
I should. I've got a few of these up with. You can cross maybe 3 or 4 different. There's a platform called Bandcamp. I don't know if you've come across it.
Yes, it's right. It's like a universal sharing platform for music.
Yeah, it's free if you're an artist, but if, as per usual, if you want to access the pro features, you've got to pay up, and it's a very nice design. It's an excellent interface. It
looks very nice. I was just looking at. Is that the page that you had up on the screen here before?
Probably, I think so.
Is that it there?
Yes, that's one of them.
Yeah.
So I might go and do a bit of a temporal progression through just a few bits of things that I've done over the years.
Okay.
So I think, I've been playing guitar mostly since I was in very early high school. I played bass a bit.
Yep.
And when I was 14, I was very interested in audio recording. That's where it sort of all took off. And my dad bought me a 4-track tape recorder.
Oh, very good.
And
was it a cassette recorder?
It was a cassette recorder.
Yep.
It was a Yamaha MT-120.
Right.
And I hated it because I thought, this rubbish analog thing, I just want a digital recorder. All my recordings sound terrible.
Yeah.
But little did I know that many years later I'd re-embrace the 4-track tape recorder because a number of 90s indie rock musicians such as Lou Barlow and Liz Phair and people who are associated sort of parallel to the whole grunge movement really took those and it sort of gave it was that lo-fi sound, rebirth of the lo-fi.
I think so. It's interesting, isn't it? It really, how things sort of come in cycles. And as soon as you've got alternatives, then it just becomes another form of expression rather than something that's a limiting factor. It becomes it's sort of emancipated.
Embrace the limitations of the technology, and it gives you a framework in which to sort of explore the. Just that limited avenue. So I'm not going to play one of my 4-track recordings, but I will play when I happily graduated to an iMac, just using the input, the microphone input. And when I was 15 or 16 when I recorded this, I really wanted to be Brian Eno. And I was enamoured by his production work with U2, with Daniel Lanois, and I just layered everything, put everything through all these bizarre filters and reverb, and there's a lot of awful digital reverb that was done on a 2007 iMac on this recording. And this is a pop song that I wrote called Sunshine Girl, and the lyrics were written in the St. Elizabeth's School debutante ball, me not having a date for that debutante ball and me being all upset about it. So I wrote these lyrics anyway.
Fantastic. I look forward to hearing it. So I think you can just fire up. It should come on. That's great, Andrew. Look forward to it.
This is a Sunshine Girl by Dew Warning, also known as Me. It'll play. Here we go.
Debutante, trickle down the stairs, gracious eyes, staring down in pairs, a smiling face that you taught me how to share in new ways, knowing that you care. Sunshine girl, you make it all okay. I get real sad, but then you're here to stay. Another world will be mine someday. Sunshine girl, I love you.
Yes, sorry, I should mention when that's... okay, so that was... it's automatically playing. Sorry, I'm
it's
ruining...
on a loop. It was great. Thank you. So that's your formative expression. That's your first full recording.
So 15 or 16 years old, the first full pop song that I wrote and recorded in one day, and I made myself sick because I just got obsessed with it. I needed to play all the parts in that one day.
And lots of layering. You did well. So you didn't. That was after you had your 4-track machine. That's with the when you had the iMac.
Yes, that's when I graduated to digital, real recording.
Okay.
Digital who's he wants it.
And recorded in the cupboard.
Mm-hmm. Recorded in the cupboard to get some vocal isolation. And
that's the way to do it.
I had to put the whole computer in the cupboard because the microphone was the internal mic on the computer. I couldn't afford a microphone for another 10 years. Yes. I had to use the internal microphone.
Well, Apple mics aren't that bad.
They're quite good. They're surprisingly good, those internal Apple mics.
Definitely. Well done. That's great. Your first opus 1.
Yes. Indeed. And there's another 20 tracks on that album that are all just as awful, but I'll spare you those.
No, that's fine. It's good. We'll have to bookmark this page, and we'll have to have listen to different examples from your and trace your evolution.
Yes. Would you like me to play something else?
Of course, absolutely. You've got the floor.
Right.
I'm just a passive observer.
I might fast forward a few years to my first year of university, when, of course, we had to form a band, and we really got into punk music. We were playing a lot of old sort of hardcore punk from the 80s, bands like Bad Brains and Big Black and Black Flag, and bands with B in their name. And
sounds very subversive.
That's right. Yes. It certainly was. We felt that we had to be just as subversive as they were. And this band, we actually got banned from several venues, unfortunately.
Really?
Not through outrageous behaviour, but by the fact that we didn't sell any tickets. Nobody came to saw us because we were 4 kids from Springvale, and we had no idea what we were doing or how to get people to our shows. So we recorded this one album over the course of 6 months. 5 of those months were just trying to get the guitarist to come in and do some vocals.
Right.
But most of it was done in a day by a guy who was more accustomed to doing dance music. So the production's a bit odd. It's very compressed, and it's got a lot of high end. But
so you actually went to a recording studio to do it?
We went to Kindred Studios in Yarraville, which was the Victoria University Studios.
In Yarraville. I don't know that at all. Right.
Yes, so I thought I might play a song that I'd written as in acoustic form a few years before that, and then they're like, "Oh, you need to do a song." So we just drummed it out, and this has got a Lowry organ solo in it. It's the only punk song that I know of. There's probably some that has a Lowry TG-44 organ solo. Played in the bridge.
Sounds good.
May just cue that up. This song is called Adelaide, and it's by a band called ISIY. ISIY.
Just
I'll just-
that is dense. We're looking at it on the monitor. We were looking on the SDR, and wow, that's a pretty pattern.
It was very nice, wasn't it?
We have quite a wide spectrum of interest there.
Yes, I'm not quite sure what the mixing engineer did, but it was it's quite interesting in sound. Lots of high frequency content. I don't know what he
Seems
was
to be.
trying to achieve, but yeah. So that I've still got almost. I think we made 50 copies of that on CD, and
Right.
I've still got about 48 of them in my in my cupboard at home.
Right.
So they'll be
look.
worth something one day.
No, it's good you put it up on Bandcamp. You'll be discovered. So this is it. So this is the forum, you see. This is the new forum. We've got
Yes.
a couple of people listening online, and one of them will be an agent. And, and they'll hear this for the first time, and they'll say, I heard someone on the test transmission on 160, and I'd like to know more about their work.
Yes. ISIYM, which stands at... we never explicitly stated what ISIYM or ISM stood for, but it stood for something extremely offensive,
Right.
which should not be repeated on air.
Okay. Well, we'll refrain from repeating it. It is a family show. of course.
That's right. I have to...
And-
Yes. So that band decayed after a couple of years, and I mentioned the 4-track. Well, that band hated the 4-track. They wouldn't let me record with the 4-track.
Really?
So when that band broke up...
Sacramento. Why would they do that?
well, they thought...
Digital phobes, were they?
Yes. No. Well, they hated anything analog. They thought it was all old fashioned. They thought well, but I told them, well, the hipsters love analog. Look, there's a vinyl revival going on. We've got to get onto it. We've got to
tapes are back.
That's right. We have to put out cassette tapes, and I insisted on putting out cassette tapes. And no, the guitarist said, no, nobody will take us seriously if we put out a cassette tape in 2012. Well, I was ahead of the curve.
You certainly were ahead of the curve.
So my next band, I insisted on returning to the 4-track, and we called ourselves Theft because we seemed to be doing a lot of dumpster diving around the time. You see, Monash University was knocking down half of its buildings, and we were getting all of these cool art supplies out of the physics building, all of these
Right.
documents from the 60s.
Okay.
That had been part of their workshops, all of this old equipment, some of which we used in the recordings. And also the Monash Homemaker Centre was being slowly cleared out, and we used to walk through there and take photos. So for some reason we called the band Theft because we didn't have anything else.
Fair enough. Well, a
and,
dumpster dive pretext is a very... It makes sense to me.
Yes, and so we had this dumpster dived aesthetic going on, and one of the songs that I'm just trying to figure out, that I've got one that was written about Mount Waverley because it's such a nice area. I've got another
beautiful area.
song that was written about a cultural gatekeeper. You know, one of those people who does a radio show and is a concert promoter and has his own band. And
that's right.
It's all very incestuous, but
It's a very familiar picture.
I might actually play a song called Green Light, recorded on the Yamaha MT-120 4-track cassette recorder one afternoon in July 2013. And that song is called Green Light, and I'm not really sure what it's about. I think it's actually about getting into a fight in your driveway. It's a bit abstract, so I might just play that now.
Okay.
This is Theft with Green Light. And there we go.
Okay, really. So that was, yeah.
That was Green Light by Theft from the 2013 EP Metal Vulture, recorded on a 4-track cassette recorder, and you can tell because of the characteristic tape distortion. I think
it's got that tape saturation.
Yes, cassette tapes, and it's funny because those tapes were not the Type 2 chromium dioxide cassettes that you're supposed to use with those decks, and you can get very good sounding recordings with those. I've found they were. I think we found them. A box of cassettes that had been left out in the rain around the street, around the corner from my house, and they all had these recordings of like Cambodian church services on them.
Oh, I see.
And we just taped over the top. So if you listen carefully, there's probably some print through from that or bleed through.
Okay, so that's distinctly lo-fi. Well, you really encapsulated the whole sort of the theme there. But didn't those tape machines record double speed?
Yes, they did. And so all of those were recorded, all of those, that track that you just heard, they were all recorded at 9.8.
Okay.
I think.
Right.
Yeah, double
good.
speed, so
yeah.
Quite hi-fi.
Yeah. High lo-fi. Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, how these sort of movements come around in cycles and how they're sort of re-embraced. And I suppose things are so fragmented now that we sort of, there's a niche for everything. So there probably will always be turntables. There'll probably always be cassette decks.
Yeah, and they'll wax and wane in popularity, mainstream popularity anyway. They'll get rediscovered every 10, 15 years or whatever it is.
But there'll always be somewhere in the world where things are still being made or used or celebrated.
That's right.
But that's great. Yeah, that's good. Do you ever get it, dust it down and have a bit of a go?
It needs a new belt.
Right.
So I wish that I had I just need to get back into it. It's all in storage.
Okay.
As I say. I do have a few other 4-track tape recorders. I recently lent one to a guy named Brendan Webb, who played guitar in a 90s a local indie rock band called Sandpit.
Oh.
It was sort of a bit like, if you know Sonic Youth, they were sort of like the Melbourne Sonic Youth. And they were incredibly talented, I guess. But they didn't really receive their dues because the bassist went on to join a much more successful band called Something for Kate, who's still going today. And they sort of broke up after she left. But I still maintain that Sandpit was a much better band, and he had a bunch of these 4-track cassettes. He needed to play them back, so I gave him this deck, and all of that history's been digitised, and it's on the net now, so I'm very happy about that. That's bit of good. 90s Melbourne rock and roll history has been preserved.
Hey, that's good. Well, it's important to find a use for things. Yeah, and where possible, keep things in circulation or in the digital domain, at least. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
So, if I might continue, do I have much more time?
Yeah, heaps of time.
Oh, good.
What was it? 12:52. Oh, let's go. Go for another 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah, that's good. So, I might move to another project. So, after the failure of those last 3 bands, I decided, well, let's just completely give up on the song form. Totally. Let's give up on all forms and go for pure id. And me and a friend of mine decided, let's just turn up to each other's houses with a box full of random bits of recording equipment and musical equipment, and then we'll try and patch something together, whether it be a synthesizer or a recorder or something. So we had these sessions where we just bring a random lot of equipment and to each other's houses and just record something, and it was totally it's completely indulgent. It's quite noisy. And doesn't have a lot of melodic content, but it's not horrible. So if I could play an excerpt of that,
please.
One night we did that, and we just recorded an hour of us mucking around with sounds over those Cambodian cassettes.
So use the same format.
That's right, same format as before on the 4-track.
Okay, sure.
With some homemade oscillators and things.
Yeah.
In the mix. So,
that sounds fascinating.
Yes, so that was 2014, and this was a project called The Origin. So I might play an excerpt from a suite that we recorded called Sunday Mass, and this is the first section of that. It's about 3 minutes long. So
Sounds great.
here is Flipper by The Origins. One moment. All right.
Hey, that was an experience.
Yes.
I have to say, you had quite a creative. It showed a lot of creative zeal there,
Yes.
interfacing, and lots of accents and
A lot of spontaneity involved in that recording. So,
well, that's right. You're patching things through in cyclic motion. You tell us about how you did it.
Yeah, so so there were a few tracks feeding into that. Basically, I think on one track there's a 555 timer modulating another 555 timer, both functioning as oscillators. And that's that high-pitched whining noise that you hear. Now, that was passed through an attempt at a homemade digital delay using a chip called a PT2399 by Princeton Technologies, which is sort of used in a lot of cheapo digital karaoke boxes to give a reverb effect.
Right, that's what they use.
Yes, with no attention paid to levels or the appropriate circuitry surrounding it. So it didn't work quite the way as intended, but it gave us that odd distortion that you hear recurring. Now, that was recorded on top of one of those, a cassette featuring recordings of Cambodian preachers that were had been sitting in the rain for a while, and then to complete that sort of rain theme, at the end of that piece, you can actually hear me grabbing the microphone and just running out into the front yard of my friend's house. And it just fades out.
Yeah, I thought that was really effective,
sound.
Hearing the rain at the end and people just sort of idle chatter in the background.
Yeah.
But what a compilation. What a soundscape.
Yes.
It's not, it reminds me a little bit of some of the what Peter Parker was doing with his little oscillator drone machine. He was finding sort of interesting layering techniques. But it's great that you so I assume you built all of the equipment yourself?
Yes, I built the oscillators and the digital delay, and I think that there's a distortion, like a harsh clipping sort of circuit in there that's delivering a bit of distortion in there as well.
Yeah, so finding a way to sort of interpolate and work through or develop a technique to work with all of these controls. Was it like a bank of knobs?
Yeah, it was, basically it was all these little boxes chained together,
right,
with and laid out in front of the operator, and also funny things. I mean, there was an element of primitive technique where you just take a random aux send and plug it into an input and see what would happen.
Yeah,
with
sure. Well, that's a part of it. I mean,
and,
it's good to
you get some very odd phasing. You can do some very odd phasing effects with those 4-track recorders if you take the output of a track while it's being played back and feed it into the input of another track that is recording. You can get some odd things going on.
Yeah, well, it's very effective. It's great. Good.
Yes, and well, that was even less commercially successful. And we did one live performance where we brought, I think, 3 VCRs and a homemade video mixer and a digital projector and all of our synth equipment. And promptly, we played at a place called at the upstairs room of the Tote Hotel in Collingwood.
Oh, yes.
And we tripped the circuit breaker in the upstairs room with all of our equipment, and that was when we discovered that everything in that room, including everything at the bar, was run off a single PowerPoint, buried somewhere going through 3 lengths of extension cords. It was incredibly dodgy.
Absolutely.
It's amazing there wasn't a fire.
It's amazing there wasn't. Okay, so that would have gone down well with the Tote. Were you given the...
Oh, they gave us the green light. They just wouldn't let us use our video equipment. So, unfortunately, the 3 VCRs, which took up most of the room, went unused.
You couldn't value add.
No, we couldn't do our multimedia performance, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, how did things evolve? So, what year was that?
That was 2014.
Okay.
And I think I'm skipping ahead a couple of years, although these recordings were done over the course of 2015 to 2017, so quite a lot more recent. I sort of ventured into... I hated having to use equipment and to have a band and to have to play things. I was living out of home in a small apartment, so I couldn't make a lot of noise. So I started to do stuff purely electronically on computers. And there was a software package called Ableton.
Oh, that's a great software package.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it used in schools.
And it's incredibly flexible for electronic production, any kind of production I recorded.
Well, it's sort of an alternative to to Pro Tools, isn't it?
Yes, it's got the same functionality as Pro Tools, but the interface is more set up to do looping.
Yeah.
So you can create loops, and you can actually use it for live performances, which is, I guess, where the name Ableton Live came from. Is you can set it to be triggered by MIDI controllers and stuff.
Yes, and you can get a pad for it, can't you?
Yes, Ableton make a dedicated pad just that's designed to interface with it.
Yeah.
So I started to do a lot of that stuff, and again, tying in with the dumpster diving, I'd go and retrieve a lot of old software from the 1990s. Now, something that I've done ever since I was long before radio, back when I was very little, maybe 6 years old, I collected computers, and I had a big, I still have a big computer collection, which is totally useless. But I had all this software, and they used to use really cheesy sort of sound generating packages to make alert noises and the background music for these 90s. In the 90s, you had multimedia. Multimedia was the big thing, and everybody had to rush to put music on their CDs. So you got a lot of these really bad MIDI general instruments type tracks.
Yes.
And I thought, well, let's bring that back.
Of course. Let's celebrate this. Another lo-fi experience.
That's right. Lo-fi digital, which is an acquired taste. So I'm just trying to figure out what track to play next here, because I've got a few where I'd scrape all of the WAV files off a CD and then churn them through Ableton and see what came out. So I've got a few.
So this is the proverbial mix master approach.
Yes. I might actually play two quick ones if I may.
Yeah, please. Absolutely.
Find, so this is one using a bunch of custom drum kits, sample drum kits made out of those alert noises, and a bunch of vocal samples from a make-your-own hip-hop video package from the early 90s.
Good.
So it sounds completely bizarre, and it's got a typical hardcore techno kick, so this might put the VK3SL transmitter through another test.
That's right. So everyone hold your horses. Be ready for an interesting ride here.
Get ready to adjust your levels. This is by ISO 1996. And this is Only Suckers by 57s at Retail.
Sequence start.
Revolution. I know you're gonna dig this.
Just let the arpeggiator fade out. And that was only Suckers by 57s, that is the Shure SM57 at retail. Now, I just want
You're speaking to an SM57 right this moment.
I am. It's the irony, it's come full circle.
Yeah, it has indeed. And we had that very machine gun-like...
Yes. Now, I just wanted to say a few things about the rhythms in that track. So, a bit of a history. You'll notice the fast, relentless kick, which was actually several kicks layered one on top of each other. One, I think, was just a pure 100 hertz sine wave, one of the many kick drum tools of choice. And that was influenced a very specific style of dance music from the Netherlands from the early 90s, which was called Gabba techno, and it had that really fast militaristic kick drum, and I wanted to duplicate that because nobody's really revisited that kind of music, probably with good reason. I mean, everybody who listened to it danced around in sort of track pants and shaved heads. It was a very strange time.
Yes, it conjures up an image, it certainly does.
But I wanted to juxtapose that with if you listen to the earlier part of that track, there was actually a reggaeton beat. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with reggaeton music. But
I don't know anything about reggaeton music.
It's,
you have to educate me.
It's sort of a modern fusion of, I guess, if you take a reggae beat and you speed it up and you sort of accentuate the offbeat in such a way that it gels well with a 4 to the floor kick beat, you get this. And it's used in a lot of Latin clubs. My girlfriend loves it, and I hate it. Yeah. But I thought that I might just try and transplant this sort of this very sort of sensual, drunken Latin beat over the top of this horrible Dutch kick drum. and put all of these irrelevant hip hop vocal samples over the top. So,
fantastic! What an imagination!
And I might just play one very silly track that also from ISO 1996, my electronic stuff, which was Microsoft, of course, was a big leader of multimedia in the 90s with their home movie and home cooking and whatever home packages, and I thought it was just hollow consumerism at its rampant best. So I had to take the Microsoft Home theme, which is a jaunty little smooth jazz tune, and put it over a heavy jungle dance beat. So with some really annoying vocal samples, so I apologise for that. But this is Microsoft Jungle. that lovely flourish at the end there with all that very low bitrate MP3 distortion. And you heard
it's a particular type of distortion, isn't it?
Yes, and I think that's going to grow in popularity as the current generation grows of age and becomes nostalgic.
It's the sort of
as I am now.
Yeah, that's it. It's the sort of distortion you get on answering machine services.
Yes, that's right. It's that granularity.
Yes, it is. It's very characteristic. But
Yes.
I thought that had a great pace to it. I love the juxtapositions. it rang true.
Yes, and the original recording played out at the end without the beat, so you could hear what it sounded like when it was played on your CD-ROM.
That's right.
So I might just play. This could go for a lengthy intro, but I won't. I will play. A couple of years before, after I worked on all that stuff, and I started working on new music because I was doing a lengthy course of study, which took up all my time. So I didn't really have much time for music. But I returned once again to songs, and I started writing songs and. So I might just play a couple of those, and this is the most recent band that was recorded in a proper studio, Bakehouse Studios in Richmond.
Right.
It was mixed by, well, actually it was mixed by me, so not a proper recording engineer, but it was recorded by a proper recording engineer.
Okay.
And it has features my cousin on backing vocals, and it's indie pop. It's nice and laid back, and this is the kind of music that I feel like I always wanted to make.
Yep.
Without being pressured into being a punk musician or an electronic musician or any of those. So here's a couple of easy pop tunes.
So it's more of a natural expression.
That's right. And this is a song about a drain in St Kilda. And it is called Canal, and the band is Fire Trail.
As David did 30 years ago.
that was Canal by Fire Trail, which is the most recent of the music that I've written. And
I enjoyed that.
oh, thank you.
It was good.
Yeah.
Yay. So
Now-
you sort of feel settled on...
Yeah, I rather
style.
like that clean guitars. It's very difficult to get clean guitars to sound interesting in that frame of operation. It's
Yeah.
difficult to get clean guitars to sound aggressive, which is another challenge that I embarked on.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the traditional rock paradigm, you just put distortion on it and all of your mistakes are fudged over, but clean guitars I found quite challenging.
Yeah, interesting point.
Yeah, visually speaking, I was trying to get a synesthesia going between the sound of chiming, a clean Fender Stratocaster and the shimmering of eucalyptus leaves in the afternoon light.
Fantastic.
That's the synesthetic image.
Yes, yes,
yeah.
it's compelling. It's
That's
good.
right.
Yeah, well done. That's great.
But
So that's fairly recent.
yes, well, the song was written probably about 4 years ago, actually, but
Okay.
it was recorded 2 years ago and mixed last year. So
Okay.
it's a long
Sure.
process.
So what's the story? So you went and recorded there, and they gave you the desk just to remix and to...
well, what happened?
Or you just mastered it on your computer?
I just did it in the box
Okay.
on the computer.
Yep.
So we recorded the drums and the guitars at the studio.
Yep.
All of my parts. We recorded a second guitar in my living room when I was living in Murrumbeena, and did all the vocals also in the living room, and I just mixed it in Ableton. Actually.
Okay, very
So that
good.
was so it's not the best mixing job. I still haven't quite gotten my head around how to do it, but it was given the fact that it was cheap and free. it
Yeah,
was all right.
absolutely. And in some ways, it's better to use a program that's maybe in some ways limited, but you find a creative way around.
It's also
issues.
the song that features a lyric that I'm not really big on lyrics, but it features my favourite lyric that I've written, which bears some explanation, which is "See Rachel swim to the Cerberus." Now the Cerberus being
yes, I know the
the
Cerberus.
HMAS Cerberus.
Yes, I used to swim out there myself.
That's
on,
right.
On my Lilo.
back when you could do that.
Yeah,
And,
you're not allowed to do it anymore.
No, you can't, unfortunately. And I was having a conversation with a girl who tried to swim out there and chickened out and went back, and also a guy who'd swum out there in the 80s, and that's and it's sort of the dialogue between them.
Yeah.
But also, you can hear this bubbling, sort of surfy sound, and that's actually a recording that I made down at, what is it, Half Moon Bay? Or
Yeah,
Blake?
yeah,
I
it is.
went down to Half Moon Bay one afternoon and made a recording of the surf. So
Okay.
that's what that is. It
That's
is
very
authentic.
good. You can get close to the boat. Young William, my son, went out there with a friend and their dad in a kayak, and you can sort of basically row around it and get up very close, but you're not supposed to touch it.
Yes.
But of course, there's a branch missions on the Cerberus, I think.
I did not know that. I was not
Yeah.
on a field day.
Yeah, they did. They did a cast from the Cerberus.
Oh, that's very good to know. I'll need to
so that's
uncover
one
that.
yes, that might be a topic of conversation next week.
Yes,
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
The one other thing about that song, sorry, I'm very proud of that song. is
That's good. Why not?
the other content in that song is swimming out of a drain. Now there is a drain that runs through St Kilda and takes all of the effluent of St Kilda and washes it out into St Kilda Beach, and at high tide it floods, and I went with a group of friends and we thought, oh yeah, we'll just wade out the end into the beach from this old red brick drain, and no, it goes above your head, and it's you had to swim out with backpacks and laptops
wow.
and recorders, and it was awful. So
Yeah,
if anybody's interested, do not go at high tide
Okay, so you had to. Oh, right.
or
So
when it rains. It bears.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. So it was above your waist.
yeah. Oh, it was above my head. I had to swim out
I
of
get
this
you.
of this stormwater
that
drain.
would be.
It was pretty sketchy.
Yeah, I'd say so. You'd be especially in the dark.
Oh yes, and there were a bunch of drunken teenagers on the pier throwing things at us. So that just made us.
Oh, well, that doesn't help.
No, it certainly didn't.
Oh, golly gosh. Okay, that would have been an experience.
Yes. So may I close with one track or?
Yeah, a couple
okay.
more. We've got time.
Okay.
How are we going? I'll just have a look at the
that's-
thing. We are 124. I reckon we will fit another 2 tracks in, and then we'll wind up our missions and
I've only got one.
And see if Frank's there, or maybe we'll put one on and then we'll just. Oh, maybe I'll put a pianola roll on to finish.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That's a different form of digital technology.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, a bit of background to this track. This track is something I notice. A lot of Melbourne's pop musicians don't write enough about our city's infrastructure or the history of our city's infrastructure. And I thought that the Melbourne main outfall sewer, which is now known as the Federation Trail Bike Track, deserved a song. So the Federation, the main outfall sewer was this enormous engineering accomplishment that was sort of completed in the 1890s. It was the first big project of the Melbourne Metropolitan Board of Works, which later became Melbourne Water, which many of listeners would be familiar with.
So I presume that's the sewer that goes underneath Spotswood.
That's right. It goes from Spotswood down to Werribee.
Right.
And it's still there. The entire sewer is still there, and it's all brick lined or concrete lined in part, and incredible brick construction, partly open. And
can you access it?
You can. You're not supposed to.
Right.
You can't at the moment, but at one point you could easily sort of slip through some bars and walk along its 30-kilometre length.
Wow.
Which
30 kilometres.
Sort of full of tiger snakes and things, but
Really?
and probably old, very old, dried out excrement and things. So you've got to be a bit careful. But
yes, we don't want to get too close personal to that sort of thing.
But it was it's this incredibly barren, desolate, just hole in the ground now, and it goes for 30 kilometres. And I rode a bike along it after drinking way too much the previous evening, and it was certainly an experience. So
it would have been an experience. That'd be a very interesting place to bring a binaural mic.
Yes, you could.
You'd get some extraordinary echo and phase effects by spinning around or moving around or sort of reorienting yourself in a space like that.
Well, it's interesting. The echo, the effects change because parts of the construction are concrete reinforced and they echo very well, but other areas are sort of very rough-hewn brick, so you don't get. It's almost an anechoic chamber in places.
How interesting. See, this is it. This is where you can really get some some samples and understand the different qualities of the construction. Well, that's it's fascinating stuff. Okay, so you've written I wrote this dedication.
That's right, and it's called Thwaites, and it's named after I think one of the chief engineers whose name was William Thwaites.
Sounds like an engineer's name, doesn't it?
Yes, I just needed the name of I needed a name for the song. I thought, that guy will do. I was reading a book on it at the time, but he also brought all the massive brass boilers in from the UK. I think they came
really?
from. Yeah, okay. Incredible engineering effort. Anyway.
Those big, huge triple expansion engines are still there, and Spotswood too, aren't they? Those huge old steam engines.
I think they are. I haven't been in a very long time. I really need to pay another visit down to Spotswood.
They're impressive. I remember seeing one that was so beautifully calibrated, they put a 20-cent piece up on its end and set the thing in motion, and it didn't even fall over on top of one of the cam rods. It was just the most masterful mechanics. Absolutely beautifully made. Yes. But I think most of them are still, I think at least half of them are still there. And a couple of them are restored as exhibits as a part of the science works. But I
think that occasionally at the Open House Melbourne thing, they still open up the lower... The bowels of the, pardon the pun, the sewerage pumping station.
Okay, well that'd be interesting.
And you can actually go down and look at the lower levels, but I don't know.
Well, that'd be worth putting our hand up for.
Yeah, it's, you can see the beginning of the journey, as it were, down to Werribee.
As it were, yeah, indeed. So just quick. Sorry, we've diverged a little bit. So this is quickly remind the listener what we're about to hear.
This is Thwaites by Fire Trail, and you can find it at firetrail.bandcamp.com.
a screw. Screw holds the grid. Walls with tension locks. I want you.
Oh, I almost started again. There we had Thwaites by Fire Trail, and that's the most recent music that I've actually put up. Yes, dedicated to the Melbourne main outfall sewer, now decommissioned and replaced by a modern concrete-lined thing. So sad, all of that red brick going to waste. Yes.
Well, that's it. I thought, no, it's good. It's good to have a dedication to a sewer. It makes sense. I think we need to sort of.
It's also a bit of a love song as well.
Yeah,
It's juxtaposition.
Yeah,
that's what we're all about here.
Well, that's right. It is. It's all about the big amalgam. Okay. Well, I was going to put a piano roll, but I don't think I could put a piano roll. Let's have something. Let's have Leon Theremin playing his instrument. Leon Theremin. He's the guy.
Good.
The Theremins being an early electronic instrument. And I want to thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for having
I just think it's fantastic. It's great to hear just a range of your compositions. You've done so much. You've obviously been a big important part of your life, writing and producing music.
Oh yes, incredibly. It's just something I wish I had more time for. But
but you've been really
unfortunately,
productive, and this has just scraped the surface. Well, there's lots and lots of programs in the. In your Bandcamp archive, it's extensive, and and lots of variety, and it's been a great, interesting journey, and I love the sort of way you've embraced the sort of the lo-fi and the way that you've sort of found obtuse ways to sort of channel old technologies and dumpster dives and put things into perspective and revamp things. I think that's the way it should be. We need to reconstitute a lot more, and I think there's always a creative way to interface and associate with not only old technology but old recordings and sampling, and I think remixing and sampling is a very important expression. I hope there should be more of it. Well, there's a lot of it. We just old fuddy-duddies like we don't hear enough. But but look, it's wonderful. So thank you, and we'll definitely do this again.
Very much.
Do it again soon. Now, what we'll do is, as tradition here, we have just a write-out song, and then I'll open up the channels, and I think Frank may be around, and we'll have a quick chat. Well, it doesn't have to be quick. Have a chat to Frank, and and then we'll see what happens. So, let's have a listen to Leon Theremin.
Электромузыкальный инструмент терминвокс – это первый инструмент такого типа. Это песенно-голосовой инструмент. В нем управление мелодией достигается посредством влияния на электромагнитное поле около инструмента.